Hey everybody, welcome to the first arranging video in this course. So the objective of today's video is to prep your composition for being able to arrange the orchestral elements on there. But before we begin, let's define what is the difference between arranging versus composition. First, let's do composition. Composition is the act of writing music, right? You could write orchestra, you could write rock, you could write a piano reduction. And what we just did earlier in the class was composition. Arranging, however, is taking a composition and assigning it different instruments for different types of performances. So for example, the London Philharmonic took a lot of Led Zeppelin's music and arranged it for the orchestra. If you're a gamer nerd, Distant Worlds is an orchestra which takes a lot of Nobuo Uematsu's music and the other, well, all the Final Fantasy composers' music and rearranges it and plays it for the orchestra. Cool. So that's what we're doing. We're rearranging the piano reduction that we composed. We are now arranging for the orchestra. And this becomes a lot. So the first thing I do to simplify this process is I like to break down my piano composition into 4 parts. And these parts are known as SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And what this allows me to do when I start moving towards instruments, it helps me look at less things at one time, but I can still overlay those parts if I need to see everything at once. So let's jump into Reaper and show you how I do this process. So I have my piano sketch folder. Inside I have what I'll call my OG track. And I want to keep this. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make 4 versions of this and keep the original, so 5 total. So I'm just going to select the track, hit Command C, pretty much copy, and then Command V, paste. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to take all these and stick them in here. Now, be careful playing this back right now because you're going to play everything at once. So I'm actually going to turn down my volume so I don't destroy my speakers. And to show you, if I just solo this, this is quiet. Now, if I play all of them at once, be careful if you're wearing headphones. See, my meter's just completely blasted out right now. So be careful. That's okay because we're going to cut these up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename these. So my top track is going to be soprano, piano. And this one's going to be alto, piano. And then the one below it's going to be tenor, piano. Below it's going to be bass, piano. And I actually have an extra one, so I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to recolor this. So you can recolor these tracks. You hit right click on the track, go to track color. I'm going to mute these because I don't really need to hear them. But let's start with the soprano track. So I'm just going to double click on the item, and that is going to open up the entire thing. As you can see, it's a lot. Now, if you remember when we wrote this, we wrote it for 2 people to be able to play this at once. So, also breaking this down is going to allow us now to add more players while still keeping the core of the music. So for the soprano part, I am going to remove some of the more bassy parts. So this is definitely alto here. So what I'm going to do is where it starts doubling up, I'm just going to remove this. Yeah, and I remember these are 4 sections. So this wouldn't be part of it. There's that. Remove that. Remove all that. Cool. Actually solo this so you can hear it. Oh. You know why that's not doing it? Because it's all muted. There you go. There you go. All right. So very clearly, like this section, I'm kind of like looking at the chords here, and yeah, I'm eyeballing it right now. Yeah, these chords, I'm doing this one part at a time. those chords are definitely like your alto-y, bassy chords. I know this top part here, I'm probably going to say anything below that gets deleted. Some of those nice chords. This is definitely our soprano part. This is kind of like an alto-y soprano part, so I'm going to delete that. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I am just trying to make this easier to digest. Let's remove this chord. I feel like that would be more of an alto part. Now, so real quick, the reason I chose this chord in here, all right, let's get into actually something I wanted to talk about. Two things. Generally speaking, the higher the voice, the more nimble it's going to be. So I have in here, well, rather here, something that could be maybe like an alto-y / soprano-y voice. It could fit either one. But if you notice, you have a chord, but then you also have these like little triplets here. And so generally the higher the voice, the more nimble it is, and soprano takes precedence in how high it is. So I'm going to keep these triplets as the soprano voice and remove these chords as the alto voice. Now, the other thing is like, well, wait a second. There's a moment here where the alto is actually higher than the soprano. Isn't the alto always supposed to be lower than the soprano? Usually, not normally, or usually, but not always. And so we get into this concept that's called voice crossing. And back when classical written was music, voice crossing was a big no-no. Shouldn't say a big no-no, but something to avoid. And I'd still say it's worth avoiding to keep your melody separate. But sometimes it's good to break the rules. And because I know that when this is played with a band, this is going to be maybe more extended and the soprano is really going to come through here, I'm okay with crossing this voice. And you should be okay with crossing voices too. Just know the repercussions, as you may lose individual melodic lines when you cross voices. And how this applies in the orchestra, for instance, your viola is like your alto voice and your violin is often your soprano voice. And so it's pretty rare, relatively speaking, when the viola goes higher than the violin, right? That would be a voice cross. But you can still do it. So yeah, voice crossing, I'd say don't avoid it, but know what you're getting into when you use it. That's all. So there you go, voice crossing. When lower voices go higher than higher voices and vice versa. Likewise, and we covered the concept that's called voice leading in an earlier section. And I'll get to that when I can find, I'm sure I'll find an example in here. If not, I'll just go towards the end. Anyway, so carrying on. This is all that. That can go away. This here is, there's really no soprano in here, so this all goes. Boop, done. I want that to be like bam, 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 bam. Yeah. And all right. Da, 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 da. All this can go, that can go. I'll say that because I want to speak to that in a minute. Yeah, this is all alto stuff. Because I want this melody to get. Again, look, another little voice cross here. Violas. And this is all. That there is soprano-y. And we're just going to all of this. All of the. Yep. Make sure I didn't actually grab anything. Cool. And I say we're going to keep that voice for now. That could be useful. Boom. Oh, we'll keep that. We erase all of this. I know this is all the same. Cool. Actually, let me do something because this all repeats, right? So we don't need to do this really for anyhow. Right, we're gonna save ourselves time if we can. That's the way we want to do this. Sugar, honey, excellent. All right. We'll remove the bottom two voices here. And this is going to be alto and soprano together. I'm going to be changing this a little bit to something even better. I think probably. I don't know. We'll find out. And do. That's all alto voice here. These really beautiful chords. And really, I kind of want to peel off the soprano at the end. Okay, cool. So there we go. Now we have our soprano voice. Cool. So now, like, even zooming in, right, you can see just how much more simple my soprano part is compared to like the other stuff. This is going to be way easier to write this here. All right. So now I do the same thing, but with the alto and tenor and bass. So I'm going to do that. So with the alto, I'm just looking for the second lowest voice. And you know what? I'm going to do the alto too because I want to show you where some of these things can overlap. Because I feel like that might get lost. So yeah, we're going to do alto together as well. So, alto. I know this here, again, is not going to be an alto voice. But I also know this top voice here. Oh, guess what? That, my friends, is soprano. And by the way, in Reaper, you can see how this is faded out. That means another track that you have selected is covering this. So this is my soprano. If I turn off those eyes, you can see it. Boom, back and forth. I can even, if I hit this downward arrow, it'll switch over for me. So now you see the soprano track is highlighted, and then I can switch back. Yeah, so nice little tip for you guys. So this, oops. This gets deleted, as does all these. And actually, so here we go. I see a note that I want to keep in soprano. Done. Look at that. See how I was just able to switch over? Oh, it's so great. Dun, dun, dun. So I see where soprano is, so I'm just gonna remove that stuff. This here is alto. We're gonna remove these lower voices here. You know, I actually really like that as part of the alto voice. So I'm going to keep that and probably double up on that. All right. Do, 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 do. It's really fun too, after you're done with this, to actually listen to the individual parts and just see like really how each of these voices carries a song in a just absolutely phenomenal way. But anyway, so I will actually stop the video here and just edit the rest of these, because you see like there's some parts where like this overlaps, and so you can actually have both of these. Again, we're not being super anal about this right now. Oh, also this part, look here, before I remove that, now I'm going to remove the soprano. So I'm glad, right? Because that's already covered. Okay, now I'm good. So I'll have you guys come back in a little bit and show you what the final output of this is. All right, we finished. Real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on all of these parts, and then I'm going to blink my original on and off real quick just to see if there's anything that's missing, see if there's anything that pops up in a gray space to make sure that, you know, we got all the notes. Cool. It looks like we did. I also added a couple notes in the bass part in some tracks, because now I'm letting us break free from that one person rule that I used to that I had beforehand, because now we're going to be incorporating a full band, so keeping the bass in octaves in some parts, things like that. So each of these individual parts collectively makes up the bottom one. And it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to read. So yeah, let's give some of these a listen. This is bass. Try tenor. But also and soprano. Cool. So there you have it. We have SATB breakdown of our original composition, which is going to allow us to arrange much easier. We went over voice crossing, which is pretty much what you're doing if you're not voice leading, as an oversimplification. So yeah, and then we did a little bit of tweaking. So once we separated those voices, like, you know, I added some extra bass parts I thought were necessary, because now we're affording ourselves more flexibility now that we have a good core song to build off of. So your homework is to take your piano composition and break it down into this SATB format, so that way as we move into adding instruments, we'll be able to work a whole lot easier. And last but not least, please like and subscribe to this channel, so that way I can share more music theory with more people. There's a link in the description below, by the way, where you can access and free music teaching materials here and follow along with this course. So until next time, take care.